Elul, Samech Vav, page Shin Zion.
Just remind me after the shiur, I got a word about those keys. So.
What's the difference between the kavanah we say here this time that it's shorish in the atmos that there'd be a deer? So what's the difference between here the kavanah that is said to be shorish in the atmos that's to be a deer b'dachtonim, and the other minor we learned that it was that you didn't do Torah mitzvahs.
So, that's too much of a general question to deal with in the class. I mean, it's high no hard. You cause a deal of taktim on the day. You get deal of taktim is Torah mitzvahs. That's what we see later on. We go into the different types of service of the order. We pointed out the other day that there's a connection here between Malchus, the sphere of Malchus, and the Neshama, and the Vedas order. So we'll see as we go on, we'll talk in more detail what is the Vedas order. And then it becomes more clear what is the Ika Dir V'Taktein, what are we actually doing on the day of Vedas order. So they mentioned Torah mitzvahs, but the union of Torah mitzvahs is connected here with the effect on the world, which is what he calls the Vira. That's what Ika makes the deal of Taktim. That's really high and high. Listen, guys, I have to ask you guys that Seder in the evening starts at 7:45, right? 20 to 8. When does it start? Seder now? That's when they start. I don't want this goofing around, wandering around, and all this sort of business. I want you all here in the room at 4:00. I mean, we've got a book of Shem, we have the, whatever it is here, what is it, some sort of a computerized recording or whatever it is. There's plenty to do. Okay, I don't want to come to the classes and find guys goofing all over the place. Everybody's got to be here and using the time properly. Alright? Good. So we saw that the Gimel Chisarim, and we saw the Shem, the fourth Kesser, which is Kesser Shem Tei, which is Eila al Gabeihen of the other three Chisarim. So we were in we began a Biyah Beneged to Eila al Gabeihen. The fourth one, literally goes above, or literally climbs over the other three Kesarim, which were Keser Torah, and Keser Kahuna, and Keser Malchus. And we saw that Keser Malchus meant the union of kingship, the union of like we saw in the Shir Florida, the whole Rich is about the king. And Keser Kahuna means the priesthood, and Keser Torah, the Limud HaTorah Lidei Kol Klal Yisrael. And we saw that was the Maila in Torah compared to Keser Kahuna and Keser Malchus. The Torah is shy to everybody. The Elul Keser Kahuna and Keser Malchus, even though they have all sorts of Mailas in them, and it's only people who are able to fulfill those Mailas that are able to actually be a Kohen or be a Melech. But nonetheless, they're connected with certain Anoshim Yuchadim. The Kohanim is a special family from Aaron HaKohen and further, and the kingship, as we saw, can only be Mikerev Achecha, and in that itself, it can only be with somebody that the Eivishter chose. Asher Yivchar Hashem Alakecha Boy, but that was Ali Dei Novi, etc. We saw the whole Ariches. The Elul Keser Torah is shy to all Klal Yisrael. Alle Yidden are shy to the union of Keser Torah. And then in that Gufa, we saw the union of Keser Shem Tov, Eila al Gavei. And so we saw the union from Keser Torah We spoke about that. Parichas was Masha Tiferes the aim to Tiferes the Zor. Nase Keser Malchus. And then we saw that Keser Malchus. I'm sorry. That was the union of Malchus. That Silasha Nase Keser Vatikla Bria. To the union of Bria Yesh Mi'ayin. Then we saw Keser Kahuna was Ma der Tiferes Tesor Nase Keser Malchus. Keser Torah we saw was Tiferes Da'in Mash Nase Keser Lazor. We spoke about those unionim Barichas, the union of how whenever a new union is to be Miskala, then there has to be a Rotzen Nimshach to make that occur. Everything is Hadidei, the Gilui of the will, the Gilui of the Rotzen. And we saw the Tiferes in each Bechina, which is causing the Keser to be Miskala, then Tiferes is the medium for which it's Miskala. Tiferes is the union of Ein Seif. Dav Kedera can be Miskala the Maki for Ein Sefer, which is Rotz. And we saw that those Gimel Kesarim Halalu, they are the Kesarim which are Shaykh to say the Hishtalshalos. Even though they are inside the Hishtalshalos, they are a relation of Makifim, as we saw. And that's what the Rebbe went on to say. Shahem Pin Makifim, to say the Hishtalshalos. In other words, that even though a Makif is higher than the Etzem Indian of saying the Hishtalshalos, but we saw that in Hishtalshalos themselves, there are Giluim of Makifim from one level to the other. And we saw that was the Indian that the Rotzen has to be miscovered from one main stage in Hishtalshalos to the other in order to make the Gilu of that new stage in Hishtalshalos possible. Because every new Indian has to have a new Iskalos of the Rotzen. Shorshim by Rein Seif, Hainu Am Shocha Vakili de Rein Seif, not Shorsh Harishim, but in his Klolos Ha'oyer, the Rein Seif Shalifnei Atzimtzum. So we saw that since Sofosov, they're shot to the Giluim of Seidish also, even though they're Indian Halotzen in Seidish also. Therefore, they're Makifim to the different levels, and that's what we call the Makifim Proteim, as they are in different levels in Seidish also. But since Sofosov, they're the union of Rotzen, and therefore go back, if we go to the very Shorish Arishain, Klolos Ha'er, the Erein Seif Shalifnei Atzimtzum. The Erein Seif Shalifnei Atzimtzum is the Eir Habilti Mubal, no, the Eir Ha'aliyas Gilui Mina Etzem Vedam Atzimtzum. And in that group the Rebbe says the Klolos Ha'er, the generality of the whole Eir, because we're talking here about the inyonim of Makifim. So even though they have a certain shaykhs to specific inyonim, but since they are a makif to that particular inyan, they are rotzen to bring about that particular inyan, and therefore they are still shaykh to a inyan of details of Seidish Al-Shalas, but in that gufa they're the inyan of kloli. So therefore the Rebbe says that they're the inyan klolos ha'er, the generality of the light, how it was in the Erein Seif Shalifnei Atzimtzum. However, nonetheless we see that the Oyer Shalifnei Atzimtzum is also Oyer, it's also light. It's only a revelation from the Atzmos, or what we might call an emanation from the Atzmos. And therefore, even though these are high inyonim, they go back only to a madrega and a level of Gilui. And Oyer is the union from Gilui. Something which is mizgale, but Gilui Mea Atzmas is only a Ha'ora Bilvad as one. It's not mamish the Gilui Atzmas himself. And therefore, he said that's the union, the shurish of the Gimel Kesarim, Torah, Kahuna, Malch. Ach, hine zehu Kvinas, Malchus, Eke Moshe Hi, Mislapeshes. I'm sorry, where are we? Omnom, Kesha Shem Toiv. However, he said the union from Kesher Shem Toiv, Hainu Gamkim Prinus Malchus, Ukiyadua, the Shem Hu Prinus Malchus. So the Rebbe said that the union of Kesher Shem Tov, the fourth one, is also connected with Malchus. In other words, that in that regard, Kesher Torah and Kesher Shem Tov are connected. In other words, we saw that the union from, or rather, Kesher Malchus, Kesher Malchus and Kesher Shem Tov have got a similarity in that they're connected with the union of Malchus. Now, we saw that Malchus, this union, was that it becomes eventually the mokir for the whole union of Elul Priya Yetzirah Asiya. We saw that was the union of Kesher Malchus, that's how Malchus Tatzila becomes a Kesher Ba'atik Labrio. So the Rebbe said that the union of Kesher Shem Tov also connected with Malchus. However, we're going to see that there's a big difference between the connection of Malchus and Kesher Shem Tov and Malchus, how it's connected with Kesher Malchus. We saw Kesher Malchus, Bi'ika, is how the Kesher, the Malchus of Atzilus becomes a Kesher to the union of the creation per se. The Brio Yeshmi Ayin. We saw that's a Kesher of Atik Brio. And Brio, the union from Olam. And in Gufa, in Olam is Gufa, Olam Brio, and then there's Yetzirah and Asiya. Or there the Olam is Hanifrodim, there the Olam is which come about Yeshmi Ayin. In other words, that's how the union from Malchus to Atzilus is shaykh to the Yesavas of the Olam. So the connection of Malchus with Kesher Shem Tov, however, we're going to see is a much higher union and a much deeper union, even though it's also connected with the union from Malchus. So we're going to see that it's not connected with Malchus, how it's assured to the union of Oilamas and the Bria and the Yesavas of the Olam, but we're going to see it's connected with a Kavanah Pnimis V'Atzmigas in the Bria's Olam. In other words, that there's the meaning of how the Olam comes about, and then there's a Pnimis V'Atzmigas, a Kavanah of the Eibishter in having brought about the world. What is he ultimately? What does he really want in the Yesavas of the Olam Priya Yetzirah Asiya, particularly Olam Asiya Agash? So therefore he says that Omnam Kesher Shem Tov, Hainu Gam Kein B'chinas Malchus. It's also Malchus, Ukidua the Shem who B'chinas Malchus. The idea of a name is always connected with Malchus. As well known, the closest union of a king is connected with his name. As the Pasuk says in Koheles, Melech Shmoi Nikro Aleihem. The name of a king is what's called over the country. In other words, the ruling power of the king is his name. It's not his actual personage. It comes from his personage, but whereas actually Mishkala over the Medina is his name. So the union from Malchus is always connected with Shem. So therefore, the word Shem Tov is indicatory of the union from Malchus. However, Hine Zeru B'chinas Malchus Moshe Mislabeshes B'Piyah Levarer Berurim Denoiga Debiyah. This is the union from Malchus, not how it's Mahave, the union of Bria Yetzirah, not how it becomes a Kesher V'Asik to the actual Brio. But he said the way that the way that Malchus has already become a Yerida and a Yislapshus into the Olamas Bria Yetzirah Asiya. In other words, how Malchus enters into these unionim. In other words, that there's two things in a king. There's one thing in a king that he remains completely moved out from the subject. It's just Alidei his name and Alidei the what you might call the laudation and the elevation of his name, and that's a union of what we call elevation, or it's called hisnasus, elevation and withdrawal of the king. And then there's another union in a king which he dafke enters into all the details of the kingdom, and then he's yored the prati is with all his gadlus and with all his withdrawal that he has with his emissary being, he goes down into all the details of the Bria. So the nafkamina, when the king enters all the details of the Medina, is that there we see ultimately what is his purpose as a king. What is he looking for in the Medina? And ultimately we see his emissary greatness as a guider of the Medina precisely from the entry that he has into all the details of Medina, and then we see Amitius Kavanosai and all the withdrawal and all those other inyanim. That's only in order to cause a basis for the inyan of his malucha. But once he actually enters the protiyas of his slapshus in the day-to-day inyanim, well, then we see the ultimate purpose of the creation of the Medina. So here is the same thing, that the inyan from Kes Hashem Toi, that's the inyan of Malchus, how it's mislabeshes into, it enters all the details in a slapshus mamish into the Gimel Lamas, levarer berurim denoige de bia, in order to be mavarer the berurim of Klippas Noiga in the Gimel Elamas Bria Yitzirah Asir. In other words, that the Malchus doesn't enter into every detail of the whole creation. It does it for a purpose. In other words, its inyan is to purify and to elevate the inyan of Klippas Noiga. Now, why do we say Dafke Noiga? Because it's well known that the Gimel Klippas HaTameyes, they're beyond the normal, say, the Habira. They're not within the normal koya of the Bira HaNishomes B'zeh HaOlam. And there is a certain Bira caused in the Gimel Klippas HaTameyes, particularly prior to Moshiach's coming. But that's not our place to go over here. The Ikar Bira is Dafke, as well known. The Alter Rebbe points out in Tanya, Perek Zayin, the principal Bira is in Klippas Noiga. Because in Gimel Klippas HaTameyes, the mensch doesn't have the power to enter there. He doesn't have the power to get down there and cause an aliyah and a shinui in the matzav, the nitzot in those inyonim. Because Cholila V'chasi could be drawn in to the Kotel Teika for the inyan HaKlippa. Therefore it's only within Noiga, the child, that we should be able to be Mavara. Therefore the Ikar B'ira is Dafke Klippas Noiga. And even though Noiga appears in Cain to be what you might call an easy way out, that we're not misasik with the Gimel Klippas HaTameyes, it's only with the inyan for Noiga. So the answer to that is that mitzad echad ze emet, but mitzad sheini, it's much more difficult to deal with Noiga, dafki, because Noiga appears to be okay. Because Golui, it says, well, I'm mutar, I'm heter, the things that I deal with have all got what you might call hexer stamps on them. What do you want from, what's so bad about Noiga? The difficulty is that that's where the mensch feels himself dafke to be a metzias. Dafke, the inyan of Noiga, is the feeling of the Adam, that he's a metzias. And Mamela, if he's a metzias, then he says that he has to have certain inyanim to be mashlim his metzias, to make his metzias bearable and make it grow and make it have all that it needs. Therefore, Dafke in the inyan for Noiga, the man says, what do you want of me? This is all what the age to permit it, that I should be able to use these things and have them. They're meant in a good way, Al Pi Torah, for me. Why does he see it that way? Because that's the inyan of the Hergesh Hayesh. If I'm the Ikar Hergesh Hayesh gets into the inyan of Noiga. And as well known, big trouble with the man is Dafke things that are permitted him, things that he knows that are lagamri, rechoikim, the hainu, they are sudim lagamri, then, he knows that he can't be masasik with them, and he's model from them, and he's careful, b'tachas b'inyonim eilu, of things that that are within the, in the field of permission, then he's drawn into that, and he can claim that he's doing it. Al pi Torah, was a big deal. What do you want of a man? You put him in the world. He's got to have certain inyanim. If Amela Davki there is the equal necessity of birur, because otherwise the man falls into that, and eventually, chas v'sholem, he can be drawn into inyanim of Israel as well. No, it takes a long time, but alidei ribui nafila b'toy noigad, and the man can eventually slip and be caught in inyanim which are even chamurim aviyes.
So how does someone know if the no-go is involved in is for the good or for the bad?
Oh, that's why you got to learn siddhis. That's why you have to learn siddhis. You got to know whether you're involved in it for the good or the bad. You've got to be able to tell. That is the inyan of the birur. That's the whole inyan of the birur. So one of the ways is through learning siddhis and through careful examination. Palm of a man's whole approach to life. What is he doing? What you might call cheshbonus hanefesh, or Elul is this man mesugal lezeh. Then it's also through the inyan from Torah and mitzvahs, as we saw, through being basic in mitzvahs. Then we use the dvarim shaytim lanoiga for inyanim mamish rotzon Hashem b'kolui. That helps us to relate to the physical world only in the way that we're supposed to. In other words, we see that the whole physical world was given to us only to use it for rotzon havaya, etc., etc. However, the word is davke levara birurim, that Malchus brought about the world in such a way that it itself, that the Elikus out is in Spheros HaMalchus, actually enters the inyan of the Nivroim of Biyah. And it does that in order levara birurim to noiga the Biyah. Now, that's a sod which is well known and mavur in different places in Siddhis, that you can't be mavara a inyan al hoponim b'derech harogi unless you're a very high neshama, or unless you're coming from a very high madrega. You can't be mavara something unless you're mislavish in it. In other words, you're not going to be mavara dvarim gashmiyim by not having to do with them, by saying that you're mudum mehem, you don't have any shaykhs to the cloud. When you enter the door gashmi, but you do it mulchatchila, even al pi Torah, then you have the hope and the ability to be able to mavara and purify the dover hagashmi. Bamela, that's what it is. That Malchus, being as it is the source of the whole divine ashpur in the Olam, it shows us, and it is a how do you call it, a dogma of how is the whole demand that's made later on the Odom, that the Eibush that doesn't just bring about the world and then keep his complete withdrawal from his Olam. Tzad the inyan from Malchus, then the koyach eloki actually is mislabish in the inyanim hataktoin. And the reason it does that is to bring the divine power into his slabshus within the inyanim, in order to be mavara the yerida which took place from the Spheros HaKelim, as we brought that down in the previous classes. Al ha'odom, to be doima leboiroi in that inyan, that he's also got to be mislabish in the inyanim, and for the purposes levara habirurim to be biyah. So said the Rebbe, what Shem, as is well known, Shem Toiv, the word Shem, b'gematria ban urapach. Ukiyadua b'inyan Shema Shem Ayin. Behind the Shem ban the Malchus sheyorad levara harapach nitzutzim the Shviros HaKelim the Toivu. So the word Shem itself is 340. Shem is 300 and Mem is 40. So Rapach with 52 is also 340. It's in other words that the inyan from Ban But that's the Shem Havaya, which is shot to Sfiras HaMalchus out Yored into the Oilamas. That's the Tzurf, we'll soon show you that. And there's the Indian of the 288 Netzutza Shenoflu in the Indian from Sfiras HaChelim. As it well known, the Remez at the beginning of the Torah, Ruach Elokim Merachefes Al Pnei Hamayim. The Merachefes is the Gematria, Rapach Meis. In other words, the 288 Kelim Noflo, they Meisu, they had a Nafila through the Indian from Sfiras HaKelim. And that's connected with the Indian from Malchus, which is Shem Ban. If anybody's got a pen and a piece of paper, I'll just make you a quick this way up. Doesn't matter. Okay, so we got the Indian of the Shem Havaya. When I make it with a long line, I mean we are hey, not a kuf. That means we are hey. Now the Shem Ban is like this. The Shem Ban is the Milui, the Shem Havaya, b'Milui Heyen. But you can be Mamala the Shem Havaya with Heyen in different ways. This is one way that we're Mamala the Shem with Hayes. And so you got here, that's 20, that's 10, and another 10 is 20. And you got here 10, yeah, which is 30. Yeah. Then you got here 2 vowels. In other words, we put in a vowel together with one vav in order to be Mamala the vav, but it should be Bamilui, and we put in another vav. Now there are different ways we can do that, but this time all we do is just make one vav together with the other vav. And so that becomes 42, and then you got another 10, 2 hays, well, it becomes 52. Well, that's the Shem Ban, that's the Shem Havaya Bamilui Keya. Why is it Bamilui Kayan? Because the Indian from the Kay Achrina from Malchus is the Indian from Kay. So Bamilui Kayan is how the whole Ashpoah of all the Spheres, Tatzilas, they all enter the Indian from the Kay Achrina in order to be Mashpia and to be Yah, but that's the Indian from Malchus. Now that Indian from Shem Ban, that's precisely the Indian of the Shem Havaya, how it's mislabish in Malchus in order to go down into Ilamas Biyah, Mamish, to be Mashpia, but even Prati in Ilamas Biyah, and to make the Nivroim of Ilamas Biyah a Machias Yesh. In other words, that it's Machaya or Makai, those in Yonim as a Machias Yesh. That's the Indian from Shem Ban. The Indian from Shem Ban and the Indian of the Rapach Netzutza is the Toihu. Yeah, those are Rapach Netzutzas of Toihu. Because if you add those two together, Rapach and Ban, then you get the word Shem. So when we say Shema, then there's a Kavona brought down in the Kisri Arizal. When you say the word Shema, it's like as if you're saying 2 syllables, Shem Ayin. Right? So, and it's brought down that you can even be misboinen, and that's Shema Yisrael. Shema means to hear, or to listen, but you have to listen to the word Shema. That's brought down. You have to, Shema means to listen, and Shema means to listen to the word Shema. In other words, that the word Shema is Rapach Ban, it's Shem, and the Indian from Ayin is what we call the Ayin Rabasi. You notice when you write in the Sefer Torah, then that ayin is a big ayin. It's called a ayin rabasi. Yeah, a big ayin. Have you ever seen in your parshiyas, your tefillin, and on the mezuzah and in the Sefer Torah, that the Shem of Shema is a big ayin. That's called the maximum ayin, the ayin rabasi. Now, why is that an ayin rabasi? Because that's indicatory that the Sheva Midas Hadaya in Atzilus, but how each one of them is Kolu Mikola Esesfirat. In other words, that 7 times 10 is 70. Right? 7 times 7 multiplied by 10 equals 70. But that's the Sheva Midas. Kol Echad Kolul Mi Eser. Right? So it makes ayin. So that's brought down and says that that's indicative of a very high madrega. In a way, that's indicative of the Midas Hadaya even higher than Atzilus. In other words, that's indicative of the Midas Hadaya in Olam HaTohu. But by Hadaya, how they're meant to be in Olam HaTohu, not how they were meant to be in the form of a Yerida, of a Nefila, that Al Yidei, the union from Birur, then we bring the Netzutzis from Tohu back into their Shoyrosh, and that causes them to be Mishkala Bo'if and Amiti, and then they're Nimshach in the Kelim of Tikkun, and that's the Yoyrosh, the Tohu, the Kelim, the Tikkun. So on the one hand, the Ayin Rabossi is indicative of the spheres of Atzilus, because that's the end of the whole thing, but it's really also indicative of the Midas of Tohu. And the idea being that we have to take the Rapach, the Tute, and we have to be Mislabish in them. We have to throw the Inyan and Shem Ban. But Ban indicates how Malchus comes down and enters those Inyanim which have in themselves already the Inyan of the Rapach, the Tute Shenoflu, and to elevate them into the Inyan of the Ayin Rabossi. That's the Inyan of Shema at the beginning of the Pasuk Shema Yisrael. And that itself is a big boniness. There's one now there are other biurim are brought down instead of going to get to Shem Ayin. Slightly different than this one. But this is what the Rebbe is meaning here. That's what he's hinting at here. Because if you look in the first page of the Sefer Torah there the Alter Rebbe also brings down the Inyan from Shem Ayin. Going to get to Shema. But there he brings down in a slightly different oifan. That he doesn't talk about the union of Tohu and the Aliyahs on the Tzutzis. Over there he says that even the Ayin Rabossi, which in Yoni is a very high reggae, it's all Hashem v'ha'ora b'uvad, everything which is Mishkala, even in the Elam Yonim, is all in the form of Hashem v'ha'ora b'uvad, but that's another form of his boniness. It's also a very workable and important form of his boniness. They have been again to the Yisraelis and the Adam to become bottled to eloquence. So that's what he says here, that's the connection between Shem Ban and the Rapach Netzutzis. So Shem Ban is the Gilui of Malchus that comes down as Mizbara, Mislabish in those Brios and those Nivroim, what they've already suffered, as it were, from the Netzutzis, the breakage of the Shviras HaKelim and Tohu, which was on the way down, as you might say, that all the Nivroim literally gained the Ashpar from that Shviras HaKelim, the voracious Habrio, Ukishimavara as Birulim, Danoiga, Nikashem Toy. Then Malchus, when she elevates all those Inyanim, how they are in Noiga, then she's not just Stam Shem, but then she's the Inyan of Shem Toy. Then she's called the Inyan of a good name, Shem Toy. In other words, that she's taken of that Inyan of the Rapach Mais, of the Rapach Ban, the Inyan from the Rapach outside to Ban, and has elevated that into the Inyan from Toiva Amiti, into the Madrega from whence it came, and as how even that it already allows its Emerson Gilui to take place like it was meant to be before the whole Shvira occurred. V'yeshalima, the Rebbe said, why is it we call it Shem Toiv? We could suggest Shazel Kamoisha Kosu B'Moki Macher B'Inyan Avonim Toivi, in reference to jewels and precious stones, the Bechinas Anitzutzis Kishemisparim Nikroim Avonim Toivim. Ukemoi Evan Toiv Hamayir. So the Rebbe said, why is it that stones which are precious are called precious stones? Avonim Toivis, Avonim Toivim. So here we have to refer to what's brought down. The Alter brings it in the first parak. or rather not in the first Perek, but later in Shara Yichud V'Emunah, in Perek Zayin, towards the end, the Alter Rebbe brings over there that the union of the word Even is indicative of this Shem Ban. Yeah? The union of Even is a Aleph Ban. The Alter Rebbe said Ban is indicative of Malchus Haket, goes down and is mashpia into Olam is Priya Tzira Vatiyah, and he writes over there the Aleph is another Us Hamitztarif L'Shem Ban Tam HaYoidua L'Yetzra, for a reason known to the Eivst. They bring to the Alter Rebbe that there's a union from Aleph. But once again, one of the inyonim was there is that it's brought down in other places that Even is also indicatory of how you take from Ban and you elevate it back into Aleph, Aluf Yishal Eilam, into the union from Aleph, and you Amavara, the union from Shem Ban, back into the union of, like we saw here, the Shem Ayin, the union from the Aleph, the Shoyrish, the Ayin Rabasi, the Shoyrish of all the Yoidas of Atzila. So we could say similarly that that's the Pshat. Even is also connected with the union of the Bira of the Shem Ban, and therefore it's called Avonim Toivos. They've been Mizbara, and therefore they're called precious or illuminated stones. The union of Even Hameir, Even Toiv Hameir. So that's one view why they're called Avonim Toivos. V'gam yesh loima. So the Rebbe, another suggestion, we could say, why do we call the Netzutzes, how they've been Mizbara, we call them jewels or Shem Toiv. Yesh loima shenikroim Shem Toiv, al Shem o Aliyah bibchinas Toiv. Atzmi da Atzmas ein Toiv. O kemoi imru tzadik Toiv, shehu bchinas etzem ha-Toiv. V'aynu bchinas Malchus כשואל על המיילה עם בירורי הניצוצס הנכלולים בו שכל זה נקרא שם טוב. Ebamira says that the word toiv can be indicatory of the ultimate. In other words, we were calling them avonim toivim because they've been mispara now and they've become toiv. They've gone back into to their shirish, and so they become an Even Toiv Umeir. Instead of being an Even Shenofal, an Inif and Nafila, it becomes an Inif and Even Toiv. So now said the Rebbe, another pshat we could say that more the word Toiv is not so much describing how they've been changed from bad to good, from Nafila into Aliyah, but the word Toiv is referring to the very shorish to which they go. In other words, into the union for Toiv, which is referring to the Shorish Atzmi, to which we are mala them. In other words, into the Shorish Adaya in Tuyu, which later becomes Mislavish in Tikko. And we call that the union from Toiv, because that's the union of Toiv of Atzmas Ein Toiv. That the word Toiv refers to the very goodness of the Eibishter, how he is, B'etzem, L'mayla Mikol Agiluim. And a similar thing we find when they get to a tzaddik. There's a pasuk in Yeshaya Novi which says, Imru tzaddik ki toiv. You must always, when you say a tzaddik, you must say that he's good. Imru tzaddik ki toiv. Shehu p'chinas etzem ha-toiv. A tzaddik is a mensch that his very essence is toiv. Why? Because he indicates and he represents Atzmas Ein Toiv. He represents the Eibishter, how he is beyond all the reads and all the feelers and all the inyonim of Noigam. A tzaddik is a mensch would be emes. He's dog in Atzmas Ein Toiv. That's called inyonai. Therefore, he's called Toiv. Similarly, we say the case of Shem Toiv, that the union of Malchus, how it's gone down into Bimavara, and it's already got to Birurim, and therefore it's called Shem Toiv. כשואל על המיילה, הרי זה אוילה על גביהם, למיילה מבחינת גימל פסורים הנ"ל. So the same way, when Malchus goes up with all these netzutzis which are now included in her, then it's also called Toiv, in the sense of Toiv Atzmi. In other words, not Toiv in the sense it's now changed from good to bad, and instead of being darkness, it's now light. but we talk about Toiv, the name of the Madrega to which it's called, B'Shleimus HaMuvan, well, that's the union of Atzmus, Ein Toiv, how is Lamaila Mikol Yerida, Ha'olam is not, the union of Etzem, HaToiv, that's the Pshat, Avonim Toivos. In other words, in the Yesh Lema, we're using the word Toiv only mitzad the ultimate aliyah into which the thing is Eilah. In other words, mitzad the Yemiti Sinif and Eitzayv, we call it Toiv. And that was said the Rebbe, that's the union of the union from Kesha Shem Toiv, that when it's Eilah into the Madrega of Atzmus Ein Seif, with all the Birudim, then it's called Shem Toiv. And that's what he says, Al Zeh Omer, the Kesha Shem Toiv, Kesha Oila, when it is Oila Lamaila, Zeh Oila Al Gabeihen, it literally goes over the backs and it climbs up above the other three Kesarim, Lamaila Mipinas Gimel Kesarim Anal, Kulan Hein Mipinas Aksarim, to say the Hishtalshal, as we pointed out. Umagiyim Lamaila B'Shoel Shon right between and they reach those three Kesarim. They reach Lamaila only in the Indian from Oyer. We saw only in things which are Giluim and Oyros from the Ebershtar. Our Prinus Hamalchus Harihu Oyle Prinus Atzmus Ein Seif Mamish. The Heine Prinus Shmoy Ha'atzmi. Shezeu Prinus Helem Ha'atzmi De Ein Seif. So now that seems to be already a new step forward. I mean, we said before that it was really into the union from Ayin Rabasi, and the Ayin Rabasi we said was the union from the Midas and Atzilas, how Kol Echad is Kol Miesa, or even higher, the union of the Oiros to Toihu, and that's the union of the Ayin Rabasi and the Aliyah. Or the Pachnetzutzis and the Shempanas into that level. And that's the union from Toiv. But now we're saying that it's a Toiv of Atzmus Ein Seif. And that Kesher, the Shem Toiv, is Magir Lamaila than these three Kesarim, because they're only Oir, they're only Gilui, Ha'ora from the Ein Seif. Over here, with the Birudim of the Kesher, Shem Toiv, you Uila Al Gabeihen, you climb over there, backslidely into the union of, how do you call it, Atzmus Ein Seif Mamish, the P'chainas Shmoy Ha'atzmi, Shezeu Pinas Helem Ha'atzmi De Ein Seif. Shmoy Ha'atzmi, like we pointed out in the previous Maimah, that means how the union from the Shem is Kol Mamish in the Atzmus. And we'll talk about that more as we go along here. So I mean that seems to be a much bigger jump than the Ayin Rabasi or the Ayin, how it is in Atzilus or in Lamaila in the sphere of Toihu. So what all of a sudden did we move into Atzmus Ein Seif and into the Shem Ha'atzmi, how it's Mamish in the Helim Ha'atzmi of the Ein Seif. How did we get to that? So here we have to come back to the point that we made just earlier in the whole discussion here, that when we talk about the Yerida of Malchus into Biyah, Bislapeshes Biyah, and we saw that the union there is Lavara and Birudim, then that's got to do with the Kavanah. All the other inyonim have somehow or another got to do with the Gilui of the creation of the world. Here we saw that Kesef Malchus is how Kesef Atik to the actual creation. And then we saw that Kesef Kahuna is the Midas of Atzilus, also how they become a Kesef to Malchus. And we saw even Torah has got to do with the union of Zohar. Zohar is Midas, and Midas is Shad to the Eilamas. And we saw that all of that Be'ikah was what you might call making a world, and making a kosher world, Al Pi Limud HaTorah, and Al Pi Korbanos in the Beis HaMikdash, whether it's Inyan from Kohen, V'chulu. But the ultimate purpose, the ultimate tachlis, why did we make the whole thing? Why was it made, a whole Inyan from Elam? And what was the whole purpose of it? And particularly, we're going to see the famous Kashi, what was really the purpose of the Golas? Why would there have to be in Elam Gufa, another tremendous and unbelievable Yerida, which is Inyan from Golas? But does it the Kushia Haki Gedoyle of Haki Atsuma? Wie kann das sein? Ma. That's pretty close, and that's all. Particularly if you go and you visit the Koisel HaMa'arovi, but that's only the Koisel Al-Chitzin, Shubal-Chitzin, those are the Koisel from HaKoisel, which was around the Har HaBayis. It wasn't even the Koisel of the Azorah, the Chulu. And yet we see the unbelievable Visedas, the Koisel in Shomis, the unbelievable Argosha that one has when one visits the Indian for the Koisel HaMa'arovi, but you can just imagine how it was, Bisman HaBayis, how it's given the Gilei Lakus be Beis HaMikdash of America B'Kol Ha'olam Kulei is also the unbelievable Shaila. How could they ever possibly do that? How could he possibly bring us something so much? What is the Indian from the goal? Money, we can't find something. So we have to say that the Ein and H get teretz, even though it's a teretz, it's l'chera. Like the Rebbe says, but Ad Masai. The teretz is that it went down even deeper into this whole Indian, these slapshas, Champagne should come down in even deeper slapshas. And Mamela through the Kavana Pneumias of the whole Indian would be oiler into Ashma saying, so it's not just the Bria, not just the how do you call it, a good Bria and a kosher Bria, but a Bria where you go into the darkness, into the at the Indian for Elul V'Esther, and there you're Mavara, and you carry out the Kavana, and the Komtsurin, and then you go back into Atzma saying, say, because he's the one that has the Kavana. And Mamela, we bow as he's the one who has the Kavanas, but we have to turn to Atzma saying, say, we have to say, Adma Masai. What is going? What is going on? How long does it have to drag on this whole unbelievable union? And people close from the Zahar. Mama said, Dova, Nifra, Sha'in Kamoya. I was looking in a Kabbalah Sefer tonight, because I wanted to check out a certain point they put down in the Maimon. I saw to my amazement that there's a Hagdama written to the generations ago by one of the great Svadish Kabbalim, that he wrote a Hagdama to the Sefer, a partis from the Ramak. And he brings down over there a Konish Vasteyan, for was it a goal? Was it as to go? You can understand. The Indian, the goddess of all the Indian Alakus, all found in the Elam V'Esther, She'ein Kamoya V'chuli V'chuli. And he writes over there to our Pele She'ein, which your eyes can jolt store. And you see it, that he says that Achman in Islam said to a zwei-sort Menschen, zwei-sort Yid. Kam Sugim, aber nicht Klodim. Schnei Sugim Klodim. And he said, this is the what they saw. They can't understand the goals, they can't understand what's the goals. Willen say it's a sign. We want Moshiach now, and Musab, and the Shoyakim, how do you call it? Boichim, the Shoyakim, Alinian, our goal, Shashchina, that didn't convince, and the world gets it going to as our goal. And he said, so the one that was young and good, when he was asked to try, let's just make the best of the goals, let's live in the goals, that's why it's been, well, that's good. Martin took us a Harikoi. Crazy, I want you to work. Sure, has to be something. Well, it doesn't matter. Crazy and train we want. Sure, no. And change. Make the best of it. God is all the time. A purely play. They shot it. In which group do you want to belong? In which group would you like to belong? Uloi Efresh Bishmoi Shal Hamakim or B'Tev. On Shabbos, I met up with a couple of people to my sorrow. I mean, Halavai, I should be in the first group. I met up with my sorrow. People said, "Oh, Moshe was Shreis with Moshe." Let's do good things. We'll do good deeds. And Moshe, the kind of good deeds will be Makaravim and good people. You know, learn to give us a Torah and try to put Tefillah and all good desire. I just couldn't take it. I almost said things which I would have maybe later regretted before I remember I was mishtadel lo Elohim advarim, kitainim each we get a haroy. Okay, it was very painful. Im Zittach der ganze Welt geht unter. Rahman is a hero, so it's just a question of mind. Nothing's going to be left here. That's absolutely right. Mamish Kishita. Oh, yeah. Then again, every time I come anywhere, people say, "No, just don't talk too much about this. Just talk nice things, don't make people feel bad." I said, "What did I tell?" I mean, for some strange reason, it bothers me. Now, why shouldn't I say that it bothers me? In other words, just leave people in the Golas and leave them, let them be happy with the Golas. That's what the Rebbe says here, that the whole Indian was with the Kavon. But the whole Indian is that we got to look at the Malchus, Mishlabesh's Bebiyah, not that the Eibishter makes the world, not even that he brings certain things of Torah into the world, but he does it for the sake of a Kavon. There's a purpose, nach what? Die Kavon, der ganze Linie von der Gashmistige Welt, in der Welt, it can be made a must here with all in Yonim. He said, for Keshe Shem Toiv. You have to take out the pneumis of it and make it into Hashem Toiv. He said, if you do that, you go back into Atzmus. And that'll be even better with the God. Therefore, Rabbi, one of my mashpiyim, he said, the Chassidus made too ashamed to go, so you got to be careful. He said, Chassidus made the go, it's a little bit too good, gave too many good reasons for it. Too many aliyahs for the go. So that's what the Lord means to say. If you go down even deeper, then the Kavanah becomes even more profound and more mind-boggling. We went down so deep even to get down as far as all that. He said, when you do go up, then you go up. Al Gabayhen, all the other inyonim become just like little ladder steps, and you just jump up into the inyan van Atzmus. Helem ha'atzit ein tvei. Pirush oila al Gabayhen, hainu she'oila aleim, liyois lohem b'finas keser maki. The keser shem toi of being mavada the noiga, from being mavada the yesh of the world, even in the yesh aki noir. This is the goal. By going back with that into the shorosh on him, then you go back into the shorosh of the kavana of the Eibishter, what he was really looking for ultimately. And then you come back into the helem ha'atzmi of the ancient. Now that expression, helem ha'atzmi, the helem of the etzem, we'll see about that as we go on. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. The hemshech hadvarim. The Rebbe, that's what it means, that you, Keser Shem Toi becomes a Makif, and a Keser, all of the Madrid, even though it's way down, Bagolu, it seems to be way down, Bezeho, but it becomes a Keser and a Makif to all the other Madrid. So he said, how to understand that? We've got to understand another Inyan. We've got to understand the famous concept that the spheres work in two ways. There's what we call Yoshol, and then there's Choizer. There's a way that the air comes down, no Maila Lamata, and then it goes back no Matala, and no Matala Maila, and that's called the Indian of Choizer. This whole Indian, Keser Shem Toiv Well, that's connected with the union of Oyer Choizer, that you've got down to the lowest of all points, and then you spring and you start going backwards, Milmata Lamaila, then you, as it were, awaken, and you bring with yourself, as it were, which are beyond all of the other inyanim in Oyer Yoshua, in the straight revelation, incomparably higher than that. That's the principle hidden here in the inyan of the Birurim of Noiga in Biyah, that you awaken Ayin van Oyer Choizer, and that goes back with a tremendous power into the very essence of the Eibishter. But the trick is, because it's connected with Kavanose, Pnimius HaKavona, ultimately what the Eibishter wanted. So that Tehina Yedua Sheesh Esa Sfiras the Oyer Yoshua, the Esa Sfira is the Oyer Choizer. There are 10 Sfiras Araya, which are direct light, or straight light, which means light Milmaila Lamata. And then there's the Inyan of 10 Sfiras Araya, Mitzad, what's called Oyer Choizer, the light which is going back, Milmata Lamaila, from below upwards. Okamesh Besefa Habohir, Huve Bepaldeis, Shah Milmata Lamaila Perik David, Milmaila Lamata Yodanu, Milmata Lamaila Lo Yodanu. Now, it's well known that the Sefer Habohir, that's a very early Kabbalah Sefer, very early, but that goes back to the time of around about the time of the Zohar Kodesh, or a bit later, and it's a very early statement of all sorts of inyanim, Alpi Pnimis Ater, Alpi Teros Kabbalah, called Sefer Bohir. So now the Sefer Bohir in many places is built around like questions. And it's written that the Talmidim at that particular time came to their Rav. It could be that this Rav was even Rav Hai Goen, when he was one of the very early, after the finishing of the Shas, he was one of the great Geonim. He's brought down in certain places. But they asked him, that would mean that the Sefer Boyer was maybe later, a few generations, than the actual Zohar Kodesh, its original statement, original having been formed. But anyway, it's got a number of the portions of Sefer Boyer like questions. Groups of Talmidim got together and they asked the Rav, what does he say about Inyan Kaf or Inyan in Kaf? And so the whole teaching in that part of the Sefer Boyer, based on the answer what the Rav gave to the Talmidim, was over good. So over there it's brought down that they said, Milmaila Lamata Yodanu, or Milmata Lamaila Lo Yodanu. Yeah, the Talmidim said that we understand. Yeah, we know, we've heard that the oil from the Eibush is Nimshal Milmaila Lamata. That's the whole Indian of Gila Rakuz, the whole Seder, from the moment that the first oil appeared from the Atzmas and goes through the Indian of the Tzimtzum Rishon and all the Inyanim, it's all in order to come down into the world, to be Mahava the Ilamas, and to be Machaya the Ilams and Makayim. So they said, we know that, we're familiar with the whole Seder that there's Milmaila Lamata. But they said, what if it's Milmata Lamaila? Yeah, Lo Yodanu. In other words, that they heard or they met up somewhere with there's a Indian from Milmata Lamaila. And they said, they don't understand. How does that function? How does everything go back? Milmata Lamaila, that they haven't heard, they don't understand. What is the Mokil is that? They know that the Elikus came down, or that it goes back, Milmata Lamaila, that they haven't heard. And there's a whole beer over there in the Sefer Pardes, where he's Mavaya, Barichas, certain details in the way they ask the question, and what they mean with the Shaila, etc., etc. But they didn't mean that they just never heard of the whole idea of Milmata Lamaila. What they said was it no matter a mile can be much less in the oil, much more difficult than no mile matter, and also maybe once you've already got down, maybe you could sort of go up in other ways than what you came down. So what does it mean? How does the interrelation between mila or mata with mata and mila? Because it's well known, the famous Lashon in Yiddish, that arop is gringer via roof. Just to go down is much harder than to go up. So if we're going to say that mata or mila means that the earth came down and then just went back, well, it just went back. I mean, to go back upwards is haper. Yeah, the union of coming down. So that would be a much more profound or difficult or hidden union. That was one child that they are. And then they said that if it came down, we have a Kabbalah that they should go down the earth, Dafki Boer, the Seder, Kazev, Kazev. Or if you're going back, maybe there's some other way you can do it. Maybe you don't have to go Dafki in that Seder. Is there any Shinoi? If there is, what is that Shinoi V'chuliver? So that's what they are. In other words, it wasn't they didn't know Klal, what is the union of Milmata Lamaila. They didn't know how does it relate and how does it work in relation to the Milmaila Milmata. That's what they said. Yeah, Milmata Lamaila Lo Yodan. So the Sefer apparently so that he's married a whole Arichas and Kamadafim was married in the Biur. What did they ask and what did he answer them? So there's a whole Moshe where it's written that the Baal Sefer HaBoyer, where he gave an answer to them and the Moshe and he even says that the Mata Lamaila is that Kaviohel, the one who's sending everything that was said. Kaviohel the Avery gave a Moshe of a Rav with Talmidim, whose father was sons, he says that the Rav literally drags himself the other way around. He looks, from underneath where all the different levels are, back towards the top. In other words, it's like an upside down manish. Over the Agansa Biur based on the Lashenis in the Sefer Habor here. However, it comes along the Rebbe here, and he says, "U'bi'etz Chayim," in the famous work of the Arizal, "Shah Manu Mad." What's going on? Man is the union of Mata Lamaila, and Mad is no Maila Mata. In other words, it's the idea of dealing with the whole interrelationship between the union of Mata Lamaila and Maila Mata. Perik Yud Dalet Kosab Dahainu. What's this union of Maila Mata and Mata Lamaila? Es Sfira de Yosha, Es Sfira de Choizer. Milmaila Lamata is Yoshua. Milmata Lamaila Choizer. Doer Yoshua Hakesa hu Pchinas Reish Malchus Pchinas Sei. Vahainu she'ika ha'oer hu b'Pchinas Hakesa. Va'oer hoilech u'mismayet ad she'b'Malchus hu Pchinas ha'orabil. In other words, it starts off in Keser, and in Keser it's Betuike Faki Godel, and it goes down and it's Mishmayat B'Yerida Yerida into the Unifer. For when Malchus becomes Manet V'Ya Ha'ora Bilvad. V'hainu, K'moshen is Buel Yiyu, Dibo HaMashko, V'hoya Kisovei, V'moshel Demitchilas Yiseiras HaRotzen. In other words, he takes the Moshel Dafka from Koyach HaRotzen by the Mensch. That equalizes itself to the union of Keser, as we've pointed out on a number of occasions. Ad Seif Maisa, until you actually do what you want to do, what you started wanting. And he says, that the in your nefesh goes from level to level in less pointed gilui. The Ike Gilui is pilus nefesh ubarot. The principal revelation of light and the reaction, the feeling of the stirring of the soul, that's within Rotzen. In a Rotzen, bo el seichel umidas, sheina gilui kokak. You bring it into seichel and then into midas, ad seif maisa, till you bring it down into the final action, Shu Agilu Maisa Levad. But that's a union where the Ika is Maisa, and you don't feel the whole tremendous arousal of the Ratzon. When you actually do it, you don't have all the powerful arousal that you had in your Nefesh when it all began. So that's the union of Ur Yosho. Avo Besas Filet Choizer. He said, Hamalchus Hu Keser. And he said, Davki, the whole thing turns itself upside down, like the Moshe of the fathers that killed the Rav or the Abba or the father. He killed, raised himself upside down. He looks from another angle completely, upside downwards. What was the end of all the Madregas and the Maisa Bilvad, and in that was the miut and the symptom of all of the oilis. What that's the from Malchus, well, that becomes now Kesef. If we're going back, then it becomes Kesef. Ainu she'ika ha'oyer hu b'chinas Malchus. Malchus mashpir l'chora. Now becomes a ganze mashpir, going back, no matter the Malchus becomes a whole mashpir. Malchus takes over the Indian from Keser, and Kilo goes back through Yesod and through, and he reckons it all out over the He goes up and forth into Yesod, and then Yesod into Netzach, and then into Netzach Ahoid, and then into the Indian from Tiferes, and then into Chesed, the Gvura, so that all goes killed back up into the Indian from Keser. And then Keser becomes like the Indian from Malchus compared in Giluim to the whole Indian how it was in Malchus. So from that it follows that exactly like he says in the Parlas, that everything turns upside down. What was the Dova Hakim Muat? The preparation for going into the simple Pula of Maisa, well, that becomes the most greatest mashpia, and it starts giving back into all the other spirits, Milmatala Maila. Well, the Fiza, we have to say that Takir, if you look at it at first glance, there must be a Shvachar Inyan. If everything, Malchus is not a Kesser, no, what sort of Kesser can Malchus be? So it must be a pretty sort of how do you call it, a Shvacha Indian Kaviol, to use the expression. So in the Chanami, those are there is over there. Then Muftina Achas, the when it's going back from Matala Maila, it becomes stuck a weaker and how do you call it, less B'toike. Pneumius of the Atzmius, it's hard to B'toike. Much more. The Indian from Malchus is a much greater Kesser than what the Indian of the original Kesser was, with all its pomp and splendor. So we have to be mispointing in here. What is the trick? What causes? First of all, that there should be this Indian from Malchus. Okay, so you've revealed to me that it is that way. Lama say here, and zweitens is that why Bepnimius, not Begolum. But Bepnimius, it's a much more powerful and tremendously profound Indian. That needs to appear. Where's the Indian was there, and so that will lead us to the ultimate question of Mamalon of Kol Zayis. What do we need this whole Indian? Starting right from the back and going back. And part of the says over there, not only that's true in all of the spheres, but in each individual sphere, that Kila, the Yosha, the Chayza, are banging one with the other the whole time. That there's Kila inside each sphere, a Gila, the sphere of Kamoshihu, and then there's a Gila in that sphere, how he is Mitzad Desinian of Chayza. So it says, it's something that is going on the whole time, and it's happening, and it's waiting to happen. And there's Indian Ikri Bazer that will see that really the spheres are much more, in a way, Toikiftik. They have a much more profound way of being mashpia one to the other than they do in even Yosha. Mit the middle, understand the whole sort of the Biruli and the whole sort of the Shempan and the Tutsis, that they all fell in order to boing to start going back again. But when Ban causes a senior from Biru, the Noiga then touches off, you know, oil Choizer starts going back, not just down. In other words, the Nitzitz doesn't just sort of go back and say, oh, hello everybody. The Nitzitz goes back with a tremendous take for how do you call it, Chavivas, Yosera, Toikef, Amiti, Betoika, which just blows its way back into its original sherish. It causes a union for Nachas Ruach by the Abish, that's not gay and Achma saying, say. So everybody said, well, when is he going to make a stop to see if it's getting late, etc., etc. So we had to reach a certain point. That's what the Rebbe said. The Rebbe said that Enochanami, it caused a tremendous nachas ruach, and all those inyanim over. In other words, when Mashiach will come, then it will be both Maharas. It will be Yosha and Chayzidov, they'll all be the same, and it's all something completely another build, and then the Aliyahs will be, how do you call it, Aliyahs? The Tmedias will believe Yelenbe, believe Yelenbe Esther, Vukulu, the same kind of mokim. They are the Harich, the Kol Tzeh. Even though Yesh the Harich. It's not the place right at the moment, the Harich. So, tomorrow is ITCI invasion, and then Tuesday, I have a chuppah, one of our Talmidim from years ago is marrying off one of his children. So he wants very much I should come to the chuppah, so I can't say that, I just can't do that. So that means, the way I judge it, he wants to daven marry first, and then they're going to make the chuppah, and they're here. I would imagine that I'll have to start my shiur considerably later on. I'm not going to miss out on the shiur. But I would imagine